Perfect. Awesome. Well, hello, community. I'm so glad that you're here today. We have a very, very special guest joining us here on the Real Estate Marketing Society community. Whether you're listening to the podcast or you're here live with us, welcome, welcome, welcome. I actually have a very exciting guest that I've interviewed before, and she is just that amazing that I want to have her come back over and over again. I have Dana Sparks. And if you don't know her, Dana is director of Georgia Real Estate Academy. That is the academy, the only school that I teach through. And she has been amazing through the years that I've been partnering with her. Dana is a certified Georgia Association of Realtors instructor. She has had an incredible career in the real estate industry. She's been the director of career development for Keller Williams Realty Platinum Partners. Now she serves Maximum One as broker. She's an amazing producer. She's won the Phoenix Awards. She is something that somebody we need to pay attention to and listen to when it comes to growing your business. Dana, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am so honored to come onto your podcast. I know, Shanta, you have such a wide reach and so much influence, and I am just honored to be asked by you. I am so honored that you are one of our amazing instructors through our school, and I just love sharing knowledge and information with our community to make real estate a better industry, to serve ourselves as an industry as well as to serve our public.
Dana, you are amazing. So it is my honor. I'm a big fan of yours. Now listen, before we get started, I was doing a little bit of research on your background. I wanted to give you the proper introduction. I saw that you have a PhD. Can you tell? I had no idea that you had a doctorate in, is it a sports medicine?
In sports psychology, yes.
Wow.
I went to 4 years bachelor's degree from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, go Heels. Then I got my master's degree, 3 years to get my master's degree from the University of North Texas, go Eagles, beat Green Eagles, and then another 4 years at the University of Virginia. And I do have a doctorate degree in sports psychology from UVA. And before I ever got into real estate, I did practice as an independent sports psychologist, worked with one of the Falcons players, worked with some elite gymnasts, worked actually a little bit during the Olympics when they were held here in Atlanta. So very exciting, very fun stuff. Then I got into real estate, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not using my degree anymore. And then when I go back and reflect on it, my degree in sports psychology is really working with performance enhancement, concentration, motivation, stress management, all those kinds of things. And in essence, Shanta, I am doing the same thing, just within a different career field, a different venue, a different purview, but I am still using my degree just in a different way.
Yes, I totally understand what you're saying. I remember back in college, I put together a presentation, and back then, I'm old. So back then you didn't have PowerPoint and all this stuff. You really had to bring in your poster boards and, put together, markers and all this. This was college. And a professor, she stood back, saw my presentation, and she goes, I don't know where you're taking your degree, but you really need to make sure that you do this for a living and figure out a way. And today I teach in presentations using technology. So it's so funny how things circle back around. And I know you not only help people with their real estate career, but you do help with that mindset, motivation, stress management. And I think that's an amazing skill that you have, and it can help anybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about so today we're going to really get into Georgia Real Estate Commission compliance. And I want this to be more than just an interview. If you guys can't see if you're watching this live or the replay, you cannot see my screen, but I have pulled up on my screen. What I can see is Dana and I are going to dive into marketing and advertising. I'm going to actually be quiet and allow Dana to really shed light. She's an expert on this subject, and everything that I know, I've learned from her. And she's always constantly, encouraging, sending resources to be better at understanding compliance. And today we're going to talk about how to ensure you're compliant with your advertising and marketing as an agent. Dana, can you share with us how things have changed, especially when it comes to social media, how that has impacted agents with compliance? And then we'll get into the nooks and crannies of the law.
Well, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I see with social media and GREC compliance. Well, first of all, let me just back up by saying that the Georgia Real Estate Commission does have a lot of license laws on marketing and advertising, and they have been in place for years and years. And as we all know, marketing and advertising has changed with the advent of electronic marketing, electronic advertising, social media. Those things were never around when GREC first created their license laws regarding how agents advertise and market themselves and properties. So there was a massive change, not only GREC, but there is another thing that agents are familiar with called IDX reciprocity. And IDX reciprocity stands for Internet Data Exchange. Reciprocity means reciprocal information sharing between brokers, among brokers. And so there is a lot of confusion. IDX reciprocity, again, has been around before. Well, IDX reciprocity actually came around at the beginning of the internet with once brokers started having, it started with MLS websites, and then it came around when brokers and brokerages started having corporate websites. And now agents have corporate websites. And I'm going to get into that in a minute because there's a lot of misunderstanding and confusion and violations regarding what an agent, when an agent may think that they're being in compliance with license laws or IDX reciprocity agreements, and how the interchanges between websites and their social media. So there's a big misconception about that. But just to back up a little bit, again, GREC has laws on the books that still, agents are held responsible to those, but they are changing. And so let me start with the end. And the end is that as of June 22nd, 2022, so very, very recently, I do have it from confirmation from Deputy Commissioner Coffey of the Georgia Real Estate Commission that over the next 2 years, GREC is looking at completely revamping their marketing and advertising laws to be current with social media, electronic media, and the way agents are interacting with the public nowadays to market and advertise themselves, their services, properties, and how everybody gets information nowadays. And so what we can all look out for in the next couple of years is that the Georgia Real Estate Commission marketing and advertising laws are going to be simplified and they are going to be made more general. So what do I mean by that? Well, right now there are basically two sets of laws. There are two ways a real estate agent markets and advertises. What are they advertising? Well, one leg of the tree or one branch of the tree is marketing and advertising themselves. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm here to serve your needs.
So more branding.
Exactly.
We're getting into the branding.
Right. Let me tell you, I'm an agent. Let me help you with your needs. Let's explore these together. Let me show you some options. Here's what I can do with my license. So yes, self-marketing, self-branding, which obviously you know a lot about. And if you guys are not familiar, you need to go talk to Shanta about your own personal marketing and branding. She can
thank you.
help expose you to the people that need your help and to whom you can be a blessing with your real estate license. So Shanta can get the word out for you. So go talk to her about that. The other area that GREC, where GREC has laws and rules and regulations in place, is when a real estate agent and or broker is marketing a specific property for sale. And there are some rules and laws that override both of these different branches. And then there are some specifics that apply to marketing a property. Well, it gets a bit confusing among the public, among real estate agents, among brokers. And with the advent of social media, so forth and so on. So GREC is looking at changing that, revamping that, not to actually put on more regulations on our industry, but actually making it a little bit more general and easier. They're looking at what those are going to be and how to interact that with perhaps some continuing education classes, requirements by brokers, requirements by agents, so forth and so on. But that is something really exciting that we can look forward to as a really positive change from the Real Estate Commission regarding these laws and rules.
Yes. A lot of times when I teach on this law in specific, I only teach on one aspect of marketing and advertising when it comes to GREC compliance, and it's the Georgia 520-1 -09 statute. And when I teach on that, especially when I first started teaching almost 10 years ago, it was very confusing because the law just seemed so gray, considering, social media. It just seems so geared toward traditional marketing and advertising. And when you'd have students in the class asking specifically, well, what can I do with video, or what can I do on Facebook? It's really hard to get them an answer because it just didn't seem so black and white when it came to social media. So I'm excited to see what's coming down the hatch with that.
Yes, I am too. And again, back in the day, don't you hate it when people say back in my day? But it's true. Back in the day, there really was just print advertising. There were the magazines, there were flyers, there was the big Sunday. You couldn't wait to get the Sunday newspaper to get the real estate section and see what was going on for sale. And even our MLS systems were not online. I mean, there was a book, it was like probably the size of a New York phone book that was published. I believe it came out once a month, once every couple of weeks or once a month. And that's where all the listings were. And Shanta, it was maybe an inch tall, single line listing, black and white. It had one photo of the house, the listing broker and agent information, and bedrooms, bathrooms, and just a brief blurb. Like I said, it was 1 inch tall.
That's wild.
It was only updated monthly. So, it was very, very different. So flyers and all of that stuff were really important, and yard flyers, and there really was just print advertising, open houses, agent caravans. So when the internet came, and MLS went on the internet, it was just crazy. Just a lot of differences and a lot of things. And so GREC, like you said, I'm really excited to see what changes GREC will continue to make. They did make a big change. I don't recall now. It was either 2014 or 2015 that did incorporate a lot of internet electronic marketing. And back during then, it really was more specifically geared towards websites, agent websites and brokerage websites. There wasn't quite the widespread use of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. There wasn't Twitter. There wasn't quite that widespread use for marketing and advertising, again, and agents own services as well as marketing a specific property. So we are due for a change, and I believe the easier information, the more general information is going to be better. Yeah. But basically, I have taken the GREC rule that you referenced, and I've broken it down into a document that is in outline form. And again, I've taken a lot of classes in a lot of things, and I always try to break things down into outline form and the proverbial, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's right.
I've always taken a big topic and tried to break it down into something that's more manageable. And I have found that this guide has helped me in understanding it as well as teaching it and sharing it with others like you who have such a widespread in the people that are so fortunate to take your classes as well.
Yes, this guide is amazing. And if you're fortunate enough to be watching this or listening to this, I'll make sure that you have access to this. I'll upload it in this group. And then if you're rewatching the replay, I'll make sure you get this. But it is really Dana's right, to have so much information, to be able to really compartmentalize everything, categorize, and really break things down. It makes it a lot easier. So I love the guide that she put together, and that's what we're going to go through today.
So, Shans, do we want to cover all of it or just the electronic part? I mean, we could be here for hours.
I know, forever. I thought we could at least cover, first of all, maybe the generalities of everything. So let's kind of go through, I guess we could pan through things that are most important per category. And so the first thing that I do want to say is the part of being a real estate professional is, and I tell this to everybody I have, I'm able to talk to about this, is part of your responsibility is reading what the laws are. So part of this is you are actually required to review the GREC advertising rules and regulations. And I suggest you do that ever so often to keep yourself aware. And this rule can be found at grec.state.ga.us. I know that's a lot, but all you have to do is head on over to the commission's website and you want to pull up rule 520-1.09. And we want to talk about the fact that this rule applies to all advertising. So that's signs, websites, email, business cards, blogs, vlogs, whether you're putting things on Facebook. If you're advertising a listing, you need to make sure that you are in compliance and you adhere to this rule and law. Do you have anything else to add to that, Dana?
I would just say that that's true with all license laws, GREC rule, as well as the official Georgia Code annotated chapters that do impact your real estate license, that you are an independent contractor, even though you are required to hang your license with a broker, and you are responsible for knowing all of license law. And the license law class that GREC requires you take with every renewal does not cover all of it by any means. But, the advertising has a lot to do with it. And so basically all advertising. So let me just let me break it down. Let me start general. I'm gonna, like you said, I think it'll be best. Let's talk about general. Let's talk about advertising yourself. Let's talk about advertising of property, and then let's go more to the electronics. I think that's more.
I love that. I get a lot of questions on, okay, you're saying advertise a property. What happens when I'm not posting about a property and I'm just trying to get my brand out there? So I would love to get your feedback and perspective on that.
Absolutely. So all advertising, whether it's yourself or a property, must be done in the name of the broker. Then that doesn't mean the specific name of the qualifying broker. That means in the name of the firm, the brokerage firm. And that can be done in either the corporate name of the firm or the trade name of the firm. And a lot of brokerages, a lot of the signs that you see in the yards, or if you talk to a colleague and you say, well, what broker do you work for? And they'll give you ABC name. Typically, Shantha, that is a trade name. Usually the corporate name is something a little bit more obscure, and that's a trade name. So GREC says that you can advertise all advertising must be done in the name of the brokerage, corporate name or trade name, in a manner reasonably construed to attract the attention of the public. What does that mean? So
what does that mean?
So that means that the public must know that, well, let me back up even a little further. If you are a real estate agent in the state of Georgia, you may not practice real estate just by virtue of having a license. Without your license being with a firm that is recognized by the Georgia Real Estate Commission, with a qualifying broker of that firm as recognized by the Georgia Real Estate Commission. In other words, just because you have a license, you cannot go out there and practice real estate outside of your broker that holds your license. Even if you have a broker's license, if you are not the qualifying broker of a firm registered with the Georgia Real Estate Commission, you can't be you can't practice on your own. You can't be a lone ranger. Everything has to be done with a firm that has a qualifying broker. Like I said, even if you have a broker's license, if you're not registered as the qualifying broker with GREC, you can't practice outside of your brokerage. So there are a lot of agents that now, this is where it gets a bit confusing, because anybody can go to the Georgia Secretary of State and go create an LLC for themselves. I can go create an LLC for myself that's Properties Are Us LLC, or Dana Sells Luxury in Atlanta LLC, or the Dana Sparks Real Estate Group LLC. I can go to the Georgia Secretary of State, create that as an LLC, and have a business in that name. However, that business, even though that is a recognized business entity, if I do not then go open up a firm with the Georgia Real Estate Commission, and either myself or have somebody else being the qualifying broker of that firm, I cannot practice in that name outside of a broker that holds my license. So it gets a bit confusing, because there are a lot of agents, and I'm not advocating this or not advocating this. Please get with your tax preparer or an attorney. But there are a lot of agents who do incorporate themselves. There's two reasons. One would be for tax purposes, financial purposes. There's different ways to handle your professional income, where a business entity might be better than personally. Legal wise, it might be better as a business entity than personally. Again, that is above and beyond this discussion, and above and beyond my knowledge as a real estate broker. Just go have that discussion with your tax preparer and an attorney. But so even though you are an LLC and perhaps your broker pays your LLC, you may not necessarily market and advertise in that name in and of itself. So back to your original question, what does it mean when the GREC rule is you must advertise in the name of your broker in a manner reasonably construed to attract the attention of the public? That means the public has got to know that regardless of what you call yourself, Dana Sparks or Dana Sparks Sells Atlanta LLC, if I'm not the qualifying broker, I still, in all of my marketing and or advertising, must have the name of the brokerage there, and not in teeny tiny fine print that nobody can see, but in a manner where the public can see another name. And if they need information, or if they have an issue with me or my marketing or my advertising, they know there is a qualifying broker who has the liability for my actions that they can go talk to without having to go through me. So yes, that's what that means.
That's exactly, that was my next question. You know, I get a lot of questions about this. I even sometimes see signs where the agent, you know, there'll be a yard sign and the agent's name is huge and their broker's name is really small, or maybe there's just one phone number on a marketing material promoting a house. Can we talk a little bit about that? Ensuring that your broker's information is the same size, it's as prevalent, and that sort of thing.
Sure. So before we get to that though, so all marketing, whether you're marketing your services and the services you can provide for the public or a specific property, must be done under the direct supervision of your broker, in the name of your broker, in a manner reasonably construed to attract the attention of a public, may not be misleading or inaccurate, and may not discriminate. Now, it gets a little more specific when we are advertising a property for sale. And that could be land, that could be an improved property, or just real property in and of itself. It can be a house for sale. It can be multifamily. It can be a lease. It can be land. It can be anything that's considered real property falls under these laws. So when you're marketing a real property, not only everything that I've talked about, but now there are more specific constraints. Now your broker's name and your name must be not only in a manner construed to attract the attention of the public, but your broker's name and your name must be in the same, they call it size, prominence, and frequency. Those are just fancy words. That means if it says Dana Sparks, Dana Sparks, Dana Sparks, it must also say ABC Realty, ABC Realty, ABC Realty. If I have Dana Sparks in size 125 bold font, the name of the brokerage must also be in 125 bold font. I can't have my name bolded and the brokerage name in even the same size, but not bold or a smaller size. And that's true of the name and my name and the broker's phone number and my phone number. So if I am just marketing, this is one of the things that is very misunderstood by a lot of agents and some brokers out there. The telephone number of your brokerage, of your broker. If you're just marketing your own services for sale, for your own services, what you do, branding yourself, you are not required by license law to put your broker's phone number, the name, but not the phone number. If, however, you are advertising a specific property, you are required to also put your broker's phone number. Now, there's two exceptions to that. The first exception is your broker, the broker who holds your license, may have a brokerage policy regarding their phone number being on everything. So you must also comply with your broker's policies. The second exception to that is on an agent, on all electronic marketing and advertising that an agent does, whether that be an agent website, Facebook, anything that's electronic, your broker's firm's phone number must also be on there. Now, the size, prominence, and frequency is just when marketing a specific property. But anything else electronic, if your name and phone number on there, you must also have your broker's phone number.
Okay, so if there was a social media graphic or, a cover photo, you wanted to have your name and your broker's information on the cover photo, your name in that case, can it be bigger than your broker's information or logo since it's not a specific piece of property? Okay.
Correct. The size, prominence, and frequency is just with respect to marketing a specific property for sale. Now, I will tell you too, if it is an agent website, now not just social media postings, but an agent website, then your the broker's name and phone number must be on every page, not just the About Me page or the home page. That has to be on every page. Now, that's just specific to a website, not necessarily post. Like, for example, there can be like an Instagram story, an Instagram post where you have, multi photos on there. That's just for an agent website. Now, sometimes if it is a big property or you have a lot to say, or Twitter, or you're limited by the number of characters or something like that, you can't get, or your broker has a big name, you can't get all that is required by license law on a post, or the public will miss the point of the post, marketing yourself and your services or a property. So GREC has accounted for that. And basically what they say is the public must be one click away from something that is in full-blown compliance. So if you can't necessarily get your whole brokerage firm's name, phone number, blah, 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 you at least need to have a hyperlink on there where the public can click on it and get to either your agent website or your company's corporate website that is hopefully in full-blown compliance with the Georgia Real Estate Commission. So GREC does make that accommodation because of some of the different provisions and rules of some of the social media guidelines and formats.
Okay. So what happens when agents want to post another agent's property? How does that affect things?
So before I get to that, let me go back to, because there's a little bit of controversy, or not controversy. let's say, question about business cards.
Yes.
So a lot of agents will ask, does my company's name need to be on my business card? So the first way I answer is I answer with a question. Well, does your broker have a policy requiring that the firm's name be on your business card? And if your brokerage has a policy about that, then yes, you need to comply with your broker's policy. License law, however, doesn't have any information of now they do consider a business card marketing and advertising, but that could be part of marketing yourself, your own services, where your broker's phone number doesn't need to be on there, unless if you are ever going to have your business card in a listing that you are selling or a property you are leasing, then yes, then it is advertising a specific property for sale, and you are required to fall into line with all of the specific requirements for marketing a specific property. Broker's name, broker's phone number, same size, prominence, and frequency as yours. So the business card issue with the phone number, that's one question. The other general question I get is, what about an address? There is nothing in license law that says any specific brokerage's address needs to be on any marketing or advertising. And so why is this important? Well, here in Georgia, at least in Metro Atlanta, which is where I broker and the majority of the agents with whom I work practice, it's different. You can live, work, and play in, let's say, Marietta, and then end up getting a listing or opportunity or buyers in Woodstock, Georgia, or Stone Mountain, or downtown, or Hiram, Georgia, Douglasville, another part of town. Well, if your brokerage's office, it has a Marietta address, even East Cobb, West Cobb, Marietta's in both East Cobb, West Cobb. If your brokerage has an address that is physically located in one part of town, and your business card has that address on there, and you have an opportunity in another part of town, you might not get the opportunity to serve the public because of the physical location of your broker, but you could be well versed in that area. And let's face it, sometimes it takes 2 hours to get from East Marietta to West Marietta based on traffic. And the way we live, work, and play, not only real estate agents, but people living in Metro Atlanta, it is nothing for someone to live in Woodstock and work in Douglasville, live in Douglasville or Stone Mountain and work downtown. So the same thing with the practice of real estate. And so I think it's great that there are no license laws. Now, again, your broker might have a policy, but I think it's great that there's no license laws regarding an address being on a business card. So you could have a variety of business cards printed with your broker's permission that could say specializing in such and such home in the Cherokee Canton County area. You can have another set specializing in Paulding, Hiram area, whatever. So you can still offer your services and help the public, and I think you will get more opportunity by not necessarily having your broker's address on a particular card. And there are some brokers also that have offices throughout Metro Atlanta, and you could have your quote unquote home office in one part of town, but they could still have an office in another part of town. So agents need to check with their brokers on any brokerage policies regarding an address, but there's nothing in license law regarding that. So getting down to your question about posting, this is a very interesting question. And so that goes back to my initial comments about what we call this IDX reciprocity. And in essence, IDX reciprocity, really what that is, don't let the initials or craziness scare you or be confusing. Basically what that means is listings listed by one brokerage may be advertised and marketed by another brokerage, so that public has access to properties out there for sale. So how does this all go about? So this IDX reciprocity agreement, basically, so the listings that we as agents, where we go to find information, the most current information about a property for sale, is through the MLS services. Now, brokerages, broker firms are members of the various MLS services. Generally speaking, one of the tenets or one of the agreements in an MLS membership agreement is that if I have a brokerage and I'm signing on with, let's just say FMLS or Georgia MLS, one of the things in that membership agreement is I agree that other broker members may share my listings. And that is in compliance with license law. License law says that you as an agent or a broker, you may market a property for sale if you have written permission from either the owner of the property or the authorized agent. So the authorized agent would be the brokerage firm that has that agreement. And so when a broker, I'm looking to reference the exact license law, because that's not under the advertising law. That is under, I believe it's an unfair trade practice, but anyway, I'll find it. Okay, I'll find it anyway, but I believe it's either under brokerage relationships or, I'm looking real fast. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll find it later. But anyway, you must have written permission from the owner of the property or from the owner's authorized agent, which would be a broker with whom that seller has signed an exclusive seller brokerage agreement. And so when I sign an exclusive seller brokerage agreement, that listing goes in an MLS service. Part of my broker's membership agreement with that MLS service is I give permission for every other member of that MLS service to market and advertise that property, as long as they attribute it to either the MLS service or to me as having the listing. So IDX reciprocity, so that's broker members. So all brokerage corporate websites typically have an MLS feed for listings that have all brokerages. Now, for an agent branded website, there is an IDX reciprocity agreement you can get signed with certain MLS services. And I will tell you, I haven't checked in the past few months, but as of a few months ago, the only agent website IDX reciprocity agreement that they could sign is with Georgia MLS, not FMLS. FMLS, like I said, at least as of a few months ago, only would sign IDX reciprocity agreements with brokers and brokerage corporate websites, not agent websites. This may have changed with some of the new services out there. There are some new softwares out there, so this could have changed. But regardless, now there is a way where an agent may sign an IDX reciprocity agreement, get that permission, as long as the agent via their broker is a member of the MLS service. The MLS service will also allow the agent to also market basically that MLS feed on their agent branded website that is staying in compliance with license law and with the attribution to either the MLS service from which the data originated or with permission from the actual seller or agent. So that's for your agent website. IDX reciprocity has to do with MLS feed and websites, not social media posting, not social media, not Facebook, not YouTube, not Instagram, not TikTok, not LinkedIn. I don't know if I'm missing any, but not the social media sites. That is just websites.
Okay.
So if you, as a real estate agent, want to do a social media post on any of those platforms of a property for sale, which is a great way to get business. Market something that's fabulous for sale and get buyer business from that, as well as help out the seller, get some potential help the seller. But if it is not your website where you already have these agreements signed and in place, then you, to stay in compliance with license law, must get, again, that seller's written permission or the written permission of the authorized agent, which would be, here it is. It is under advertising laws. GREC Rule 520-1-.093. A licensee shall not advertise any real estate for sale unless the licensee has first secured the written permission of the owner. When such permission is granted, a licensee is listed with another firm shall clearly and conspicuously disclose the name of the listing firm, unless that listing firm has expressly agreed to waive those clear and conspicuous disclosures. And that's why a lot of times you'll see, it'll just say courtesy of blah, blah, blah MLS service. And that would be in the agreement between the brokerage and the MLS service. But regardless, let's say it's outside of that, and you want to do it on your social media posting. Well, you either need to go to the agent that has that listing and say, hey, can I get in writing from you that can I market your house on my personal social media? And a lot of listing agents say, yeah, absolutely. Bring me a buyer. Absolutely. The more marketing and advertising, the better. Some will say no. But you need their written permission. Likewise, if you're going to market a public person that has their house for sale by owner, you also need their written permission. And there are some forms in the GAR contract library and in the RE forms contract library, but that's a little bit above and beyond this discussion too. But you do need that actual owner's written permission to market and advertise in anything. So back to this IDX reciprocity, there is a little bit of confusion or misunderstanding. Well, I have an agent website. I have an IDX reciprocity agreement signed. I just assumed that gave me permission to market that property even on my own Facebook page, for example. No, again, as I said, that is just for websites. The IDX, the permission is given within the MLS rules. So your broker is a member of MLS, and when you have your own agent website, the IDX just extends to the website. So it does not extend, that permission does not extend to your social media posting. So you would need specific permission outside of a general IDX reciprocity agreement to market and advertise a specific property for sale if it is not an owner with whom you have a listing agreement signed.
Okay, so they need to do that legwork, find out who that listing agent is and get written permission before you post another agent's property on social media.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, and then that bleeds into a whole bunch of other issues like photos being used and so forth and so on. And that's a little bit outside of license law, but in general, I will tell you that if you see a photo of a property on an MLS service, you do not, even with an IDX reciprocity agreement signed, you do not have permission to use that photo in your marketing and advertising without written permission. Those photos are copyrighted. Once they're on MLS, a lot of times the MLS service will have the copyright, depending on who paid for the photos. So you either need to get permission, not only to market and advertise the property, but also which photos you are using. Make sure you get written permission to use the photos as well, or get permission to go take photos yourself.
I heard that if you're posting multiple photos and they're not in compliance with GREC, an agent can get fined per photo. Is that true?
GREC doesn't have the license laws over copyright. Those are more copyright laws.
Okay.
That have to do with copyright law in general and the copyright agreements.
Okay.
The MLS services and what in the various listing agreements, for example, in the Georgia Association of Realtors listing agreement, there is some specific verbiage regarding who owns the photos based on who paid for them. And then if you're hiring a professional photographer, that adds another layer of does the photographer own those photos, and do you need to get permission from that photographer?
Yeah, I had a different situation. There was a young lady, and she was actually new to real estate, and she had an Instagram account, a lot of followers. I was teaching a CE class at a brokerage, and she opened up her account. She came up to me during break, and she showed me all of this beautiful photography that made up most of her Instagram account. But she had actually taken those photos from listings all around the internet, and she didn't have any permission or anything. And that's in that case where someone said that she could actually get fined per photo, since she didn't have permission. She just sort of grabbed these photos all around the internet.
So yes, that would be true, because each photo is going to have its own copyright.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. So
now,
can we go ahead, Dana?
Well, I was just going to say, so then the next question I get is, whenever I teach this in classes or just dealing with agents in general on these questions, or any license law questions, the next comment is always, well, so-and-so did it and they never, nothing happened to them. And my answer to that is, knowing what the laws are, and you as a real estate agent, you are responsible by virtue of having a real estate license issued to you by the state of Georgia. You are responsible to know what licenses, what laws govern, what rules, regulations, and laws govern your license, number one. Number two, enforcement of the law and what the law is are two separate things. And hypothetically, nobody answer out loud, nobody answer on Facebook or anything out loud. We don't, Shantz and I, neither of us want to know, but just think for yourself, or hypothetically, when you are driving on the highway and you see a posted speed limit sign of 65 miles per hour, is everybody complying with the law? Maybe not. Do those who are violating the law, i.e. in this example, speeding, do they all get, does the violation of that law get enforced? In other words, do they all get pulled over by the police? Do they all get a ticket? Do they all have to go to court? Do they all have to pay a fine? Not necessarily. So even if they don't, even if nobody turns them in, if they do not get stopped by a police officer, if they do not have a court date for violating, in this example, a moving violation, a speeding ticket, does that mean that they didn't violate the law? No, they're still in violation of the law. And in that situation, their driver's license is still potentially in jeopardy. So you know what the law is. And if you're watching this, you even now have more specific knowledge of what the marketing and advertising laws are. So violating the law and the enforcement of a violation of the law can be two separate things. But just because it's not enforced, or copyright violations, just because that agent hasn't been fined yet, number one, doesn't make it right. And number two, doesn't mean that it won't be enforced at some point in the future.
Yes. So can we talk about that as we close? And thank you so much. This has been amazing, Dana. I want to talk about that. What do the fines look like? What do agents face in terms of repercussions when they're not following these compliance issues with GREC?
So it depends. So the first thing that happens is, basically somebody would have to, GREC is a little bit different than a police officer. And what I mean by that, like police officers who enforce criminal laws, they have the right, so to speak, that they can see somebody violating the law and they can stop somebody. So if a police officer sees you speeding, they can go or pull you over for speeding in that example. GREC enforces license laws, but they don't necessarily go out and look for signs that are out of compliance or websites that are out of compliance. GREC in and of itself doesn't necessarily go and enforce the law in and of themselves. Typically, what has to happen is somebody has to register a request for investigation with the Georgia Real Estate Commission that somebody has in fact broken a license law. And then GREC will investigate that with a written request for the violation of that law. So then there is first an investigation, and then if there's enough evidence that there has been a violation of that law, the next thing that typically happens is, well, it depends on the what law was broken and the nature of the law and the severity of how much it was violated, but there can be an actual hearing. Even with just an investigation, GREC can suspend your license, they can fine you, they can revoke your license. There's all kinds of things that they can do to a real estate licensee, to your real estate license, based on what law you have broken and how severely you have broken it, and if they even know about it, and if there is an investigation, and if there is enough investigation, if there's enough evidence as to the nature of the violation of that law. There is, I'm looking for it right now because I do not know these off the top of my head, but there is in actual the GREC rules, there is a table of some of the fines and fees that they have for different violations of different laws. And like I said, I'm trying to look for it as I'm talking, and I can't place my hands on it. But so there are, and the fines and the fees, because GREC is a state regulatory body, they can't just, the fines have to be approved by the state. So a specific fine for a violation of the law is in writing, and it is in the body of license law that you can look it up. Now, where GREC does have a little bit of leeway is they also, not only are you fined, one of the repercussions to your license could be a fine by GREC if you are found in violation. Not only is it a fine, that fine again is dictated by law, it is in law what the fine is, but GREC can also impose additional fees. There's administrative fees to investigate it. There's paperwork filing fees, so forth and so on. So the fines in and of themselves are within the body of license law, what the maximum fines are for violation of a specific tenet of license law. But the fees and the admin fees and the processing fees can vary.
Okay, that's something definitely worth for everyone who's listening or watching. It's worth taking a look at to see that what those fees. I'm interested to see what those fees look like. So definitely something worth taking a look at and being aware of. And Dana, this was amazing. I just want to find out if you have 3 closing tips, 3 ways agents can stay safe from, violating GREC compliance when it comes to advertising and marketing their business. What can they do?
Well, the first thing that I will say is you have a broker for a reason. So the first place you should go to is your broker, because again, there is an additional constraint on an agent based on the broker's policies. So you would want to check with your broker. And regarding marketing and advertising, Shanta, all marketing and advertising needs to be under the direct supervision of your broker. So your broker should review all your advertising anyway. Now, I know GREC does allow for, and a lot of brokerages, if there's an agent that has a template that they use, for example, it doesn't matter if I'm marketing 123 Lucky Street, 456 Apple Way or anything like that. If I have a specific template that I always use, I just plug and play the different address, bedrooms, bathrooms, then a lot of times a broker will just approve of the template and you just plug and play. So number one, I would go check with your broker because there's that additional overlay of guidelines from your broker. Number two, if you are a realtor, meaning if you are a member of the National Association of Realtors, And you become that if you are a member of a local board of realtors, a local association of realtors. Then you are also a member of the Georgia Association of Realtors and the National Association of Realtors. If you are an NAR member, you must also adhere to the NAR Realtor Code of Ethics. And so if you are a realtor, there is another document that you should check out, and that is the Code of Ethics. And there are, again, in the Realtor Code of Ethics, there are articles and standards of practice that govern your marketing and advertising. For example, may not be misleading, may not be discriminatory, may not violate the exclusive relationships between the public and a broker. A lot of the Realtor Code of Ethics looks a lot like license law. And actually, the Realtor Code of Ethics came before license laws in the majority of states, which is really interesting. But they're very similar. But so if you're a realtor, you also need to check out the Realtor Code of Ethics and make sure that you are in compliance with that as well. The third thing, it would be, well, I guess those would be number one, is look to those other sources. And even within that, go read the body of license law under marketing and advertising. Read it for yourself. If you have a question, ask your broker. Reach out to GREC. GREC is more than happy to answer questions about license law. Take a class, take your class, take a license law class, check with your broker, study it more, but definitely make sure, so read what the law is about that. Don't just guess. The third thing is always really, if you keep in mind that one of GREC's reasons for one of the things that they do, one of their purposes for being a government regulatory body is not only to enforce license law fairly and impartially among its members, but also to protect the public. So if you remember that that is one of GREC's primary responsibilities, then you need to ask yourself, if I am a public person and have no knowledge of this real estate agent or this property, and if I see this marketing piece on it, whether it be a Facebook post, a YouTube commercial, a posting on a website, wherever it is, a flyer, wherever, as a public person, number one, am I getting accurate information that is helpful? Number two, can I make certain that I know who is marketing this property? Is it a licensed real estate agent? Where can I go? Like if it has the name of a brokerage, can I go online, look up that brokerage and find a qualifying broker? And we are all getting bombarded with these spam phone calls for people wanting to buy property. And if you are not a real estate licensee, then none of these laws are enforceable on you. These are just license laws for your real estate license. So a lot of these people that you get these phone calls from, hey, I'm interested to know if you want to sell your property. Well, if it is a real estate license, there's another body of license law that says they must identify themselves as a real estate license. That's true of you. If you are holding a license and you prospect, number one, you have to be a licensed agent. Number two, you have to, if you're prospecting for an agent, and number two, you have to identify yourself as a real estate licensee. So, but some of these companies, they aren't real estate brokerages. They're just general investors or investment companies that are doing that. But if it is a real estate licensee, some of these people are in violation of license law. So for you as a real estate licensee, is it readily apparent to a public person that number one, you do hold a real estate license in the state of Georgia, and number two, who is your broker? Who can I go talk to if I need to talk to somebody who holds your license, who has your liability? And then number three is, always just sort of follow the golden rule. If this is your listing, would you be, is this marketing exemplary? Does this put the property or the agent in usually a property, because usually you're marketing somebody else's property. Is this putting the property in a good light to help sell that property or are using this property as an example of what not to do. So the golden rule, if this was your property, would that advertising look good? And then number 3 is just, if you have a question, just reach out to that other agent or to that seller and get their permission. Like I said, it's not quite so scary. There's a lot of listing agents that would love more marketing and advertising of their properties.
Yes. And it's always good to network and, pass along referrals and that sort of thing. So Dana, this was amazing. You're just a gem. You really are. You're just a treasure and a treat. And I love, when we are able to connect. And I think you're the only second person that I've interviewed twice on my podcast. And before I interviewed you at a very interesting time, it was right around COVID, and I picked your brain on how to not be fearful and grow your real estate business during tough times. I promise this is my last question. I want to find out now, as we circle back around, we're entering what they say is a recession, a weird market. Can you give some encouragements to agents who are listening or watching right now, what they can do, or, maybe just where you are in terms of the economy? Are you scared? Are you fearful? What are your thoughts right now about what are things happening in the industry?
So great question, Shanta. And I will start off by saying that human shelter, a roof over your head, is a basic elemental human need. Humans will always need somewhere to live. They will always need shelter. They will always need a roof over their head, whether that be a home that they own, a home that they lease, home for themselves, their children, their parents. So homes, real estate, shelter is a basic human need that has always been a basic human need and will forever be a basic human need regardless of the economy. So number 1, there is your industry, real estate as an industry, is economic proof. And what I mean by that is people need a house. They don't always need a luxury car. They don't always need to go on vacation. Now, sometimes we feel like we need to go on vacation, but it is something that there is always a need for. Number 2, buying or selling a home for an owner occupant can be extremely emotional. There is more to an abode shelter than just the bricks and the sticks. There is a lot of emotions. It is a home. It is home and hearth. Is what we used to say, a neighborhood, your neighbors, the schools. There is a lot more tied into buying and selling a home for the majority of owner occupants than just the finances, just the money. And for that reason, people will always need people to walk them through it. So the majority of your public buyers and sellers need a real estate agent to walk through this. Is there a time and a place for investors and sight unseen purchases and sales? Absolutely. People that are going into real estate for investment purposes or whatever, yeah, they're not emotionally tied to the house. But the majority of people that live in a house, they're not going to do something online. Selling real estate is not like buying or selling something through a big box store or a big online internet retailer. I'm not going to name any, but you guys all know what I'm getting at. You need to see it, touch it, feel it, see the neighborhood, go through, and it's emotional. There's a lot of sellers that don't want to sell. There's a lot of buyers that want to buy, and they walk in, and sometimes you'll hear a lot of real estate agents that are working with buyers, and on paper, the houses that they show meet exactly the needs of what the buyer says they're looking for. We go see house A, house B, house C, house C. It's exactly what they said they were looking for. Nope, 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 nope. And then they walk into another one that may or may not match what they had said they were looking for. And I guarantee you, there are a lot of real estate agents. You ask anybody that has been in business for any number of years, and they know we open the door and the buyer walks in, and immediately this is the house. There's just this energy about a home, and that's the intangible part where people will need people. So there's a lot of intangibles. It's not just the money. It's not just the bottom line. It's not just the bricks and sticks. There is a lot more to it. So that's number 1. Number 2, There are a lot of issues that come up. There are a lot of complications that come up. There are a lot of major complications. There are a lot of minor complications. There are bumps in the road and hurdles. And even now, I am what's considered a non-competing broker, meaning I don't interact with the public. Right now, I don't help buyers and sellers sell. I just help my agents. I help co-op agents. I teach, I manage the company, and I manage the school and teach from the school. So even with agents that have 25, 30 years experience, 5 years experience, 2 years experience, 2 months experience, there are issues that come up that agents have to work through together, even in the best of scenarios. And so again, you as a real estate licensee, you are needed. The public, there are certain situations where absolutely they don't necessarily need a real estate agent, but for the majority of cases, especially when it is an owner occupant home, they need a real estate agent to navigate some of the issues of the contract, even in the best of scenarios, with the best of best intentions intended clients and best intended sellers, best intended co-op agents, awesome brokers, awesome lenders, awesome closing attorneys. There are still things that come up. And basically, the agent is very well versed at managing all of these different pieces and pulling everybody together to get to a successful closing. And it can be tricky at times. And so you are needed. And then financially, again, I hate to say it, back in my day, and this was actually before my day, but check with your parents and your grandparents. There have been interest rates way, way, way higher. And people still bought and sold real estate. There has been, incomes much lower. There's a lot of people, a first-time home buyer price range now versus a first-time home buyer price range previously is a lot different. So things are relative, but there are, people still need to buy and sell. There are ways to work around interest rates and financing and different loan programs. Also, every challenge creates a whole set of opportunities, and there are a lot of creative people out there. There are a lot of creative lenders out there, a lot of creative agents out there, a lot of creative brokers out there. And there are more than one way to help a buyer get into a home, regardless of the interest rate, regardless of their income, not regardless, but within the parameters of whatever the interest rates are, within the parameters of what their income is. There's ways to go about financing, creative ways for brokers, lenders, closing attorneys, buyers, sellers, all kinds of things that I'm not going to throw some stuff out there now, but we will get through it. And the other thing is, when you're watching the news or your public is watching the news and asks you questions, you're talking about a huge global, worldwide, or regional or statewide market. And just think to yourself, how many people this year do you want to help? How many people this quarter do you want to help? How many people this month do you want to help? Do you want to help 2 people this month? Do you want to help 5 people this month? Can you go find 2 people to help this month, regardless of what's going on in the rest of the world? Yeah, probably you can. So just stay focused on your license, whom you can help, and how to be a blessing with the license that you have and with this amazing career that you have chosen.
Love it, Dana. Couldn't say it better myself. I'm so glad I asked. We have to remember that every challenge comes with it a whole world of opportunities. And how do you want to help people? How can we serve? Dana, you're amazing. Again, thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
So they can find me online. I have a YouTube channel. Now I got to go back and check. I hope it's in compliance. I believe it is. It's called Real Estate Made Crystal Clear. I am a qualifying broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, but the audience, my target audience, Shanta, for my YouTube channel is every real estate agent in the state of Georgia. And we talk about license law issues, contract issues, ethics issues, realtor issues, all kinds of things. And my videos are anywhere from 8 minutes to 20 minutes on expounding on each topic. And I try to be educational and informational, but it is geared towards real estate agents licensed in Georgia. So Real Estate Made Crystal Clear is the name of the YouTube channel. My email address is dana@maximum1realty.com, and one is spelled out ONE. And I am the director of the Georgia Real Estate Academy, and we have a slew of classes that we market and advertise every month. And I'd love to get you on that email list. If you would like that, just email me if you're not already on it. And again, with specific contract questions or specific license law questions, if you are not one of my agents, I can tell you things generally from sort of more of an instructor perspective, but I absolutely direct you to your own broker for specific questions, because your broker is the one that holds the liability for your actions as one of their agents.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Well, Dana, thank you so much. This was amazing. I know our listeners and all who are watching got a lot from this, and I can't wait to see what's in store for everyone's real estate business, and I will check you later.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Shanta. I just appreciate it, and thank you. And thank you for being one of our instructors.
Oh, I love it. It's my pleasure, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.